All right, welcome to Beyond the Den for our third Farmhand Council interview with Godwin, a candidate focused on community strength and practical strategies for game growth. He's not about dramatic changes. Instead, Godwin looks to the future with a plan for sustainable progress, banking on our 2-year journey together to push the game forward. With a record of turning tough situations around and a commitment to constructive engagement, Godwin stands ready to drive the game to new heights. What is up, Godwin?
Dio, good to see you again. It's been a few months since we recorded an episode. So always happy to be back on and really appreciate seeing all the work you've been putting into I don't know, we can't call it the Twitterverse anymore, the X sphere. I don't know what we call it, but yeah, really appreciate all your work. And I've enjoyed the Farmhand Council interviews that have preceded mine.
Cool, man. For sure. Let's jump into this. So for those that don't know you, can you give them a little bit of a background of yourself and then also like an elevator pitch of why you're running for Farmhands Council?
Yeah, well, I've been privileged to work in sort of the web product tech space, now digital marketing space for about 16 years, really passionate about all things technology, gaming, crypto related, been in crypto since 2018. So this is my second bear market that I think we successfully made it through. And yeah, I've been involved in Wolf Games since January of 22. Actually been paying attention since the first drop in November of that year. 21. Yeah, of November 21.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really passionate about what the Farmhand Council is, really passionate about what PV is bringing to the table. And I really see this as a great opportunity. Dio, I was telling you about really seeing the Farmhand Council as a strategic bridge between the team and the community. Sort of it brings the community closer to the team and the team closer to the community. Really, really excited about that. I think even all the positive energy and constructive energy that has come from, this announcement from Shep and team a week or so ago. I mean, it's just been a real nice infusion, a breath of fresh air.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree 100%. So what has your journey been like with Wolf Game, and also what captivated you about it?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, I think the storytelling component of Wolf Game is it just always stood out. There was something unique about it from the first time that I saw it. But I think the thing that really stands out to me, I mean, I do enjoy a lot of the game. I'm mostly a Valley player. I do have a Wolf as of this summer, but I do mostly play in the Valleys. I do enjoy it. I like some of the risk protocol. I want more. I want more risk. But what also drew me into the game, and I think one of the biggest things that we can actually continue to grow in the game is our community. One thing, Dio, I actually in our last episode we recorded together, we talked about this, and it might just not have made the final cut. But one of the things I'm most excited about with Wolf Game is what I would consider is our moat, and sort of like a competitive defense mechanism that keeps us strong in our position in Web3. And I would define that moat as really the economy, the game itself, but also our community. And what that means is if a game stood up tomorrow, if a well-funded, multi-billion-dollar funded game stood up tomorrow, they could replicate functionality in the game. Like they could replicate art. They could replicate peak games. They can't replicate the community. And to me, that's actually a really critical point that I really think we need to emphasize more, and we need as a community to actually like self-awareness, understand more. The community itself is our strongest asset. It's our most differentiating asset. So if we build up our community, we are literally building equity and building strength into the game. Conversely, which I want to talk about more in a little bit, if we tear down our community, we're actually making our position weaker.
Sure.
And this is really one of the things that has my attention. Again, as we look at the Farmhand Council, and even I think about what my role might be in our community moving forward.
Yeah, great answer. So, what would be your response to those who criticize maybe the current utility of wool and resources and just the overall games economy and saying that it's unbalanced? What is your response to that?
I mean, I agree. I really do. There's a few points I want to make here, which is I think underlying a lot of the challenges. So, an economy, we talk a lot about like an economic loop. An economy really has to have velocity. These revolutions have to turn in order for there to be like real economic growth and production. And I think a few points in the economy, it's like it just got stuck. I've tried to avoid language like the game is broken.
Yeah.
It's a little bit dramatic for me. I know what people mean. I think the game just got stuck in a few places. But I think to me, the biggest point is this. I think the game as it currently stands was designed to be played by a larger group of players than
Hmm.
we currently have. And I think it was designed really well to work with a larger group of players. Now, certainly some things need to grow and evolve and change. So, in one sense, I really do think what PV, I trust and hope, what PV is coming back to the table with is really sort of an adjusted game set, play set, economic, rules or whatever, economic values. Love the thing that Goose is talking about just having sort of um, almost like market shaped pricing models. Like I love all that stuff, but I think the point is the game really had to be sort of designed for a more committed, smaller group of players, and
Hmm.
hopefully in a way that would scale again once more attention to the Web3 space comes back. But I think that a lot of the attention in our community has been on it's almost like we've pointed out all the places where the economy is stuck. And I think a lot of those observations are good. They're right. However, so I work in sort of the strategy world in the marketing side. And one of the core principles of strategy is, normally where you see the problem or where you see the issue is not necessarily where the problem is.
Sure.
And so, for instance, I just not necessarily agreed with a lot of the, oh, here's where the issue presents itself. Let's just go turn that knob a little bit and fix that one thing.
Hmm.
And economy is a really complex ecosystem, right? And so I guess I have a little more respect for the level of complexity of what we've been in, where I just don't know that it's reasonable to just demand all these little changes. And it's like all of a sudden we're in this wonderful position. So I think I mentioned in Gen Chat, I'm probably just willing to be a little bit more patient, but it's not because I have low expectations. I have high expectations. But again, I mean, PV just bought the game in August, right? So it's like I think we owe them a little bit of time. I also think PV is aware of the level of pressure that whatever this next release or batch of releases over the next, hopefully few months. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, and this is a pivotal moment for Wolf Game.
Sure. Yeah, patience is essential in building a game, and we need to keep community sentiment high, right? So let's talk about some of the criticism that's been coming out, some that could be good natured debate versus destructive, right? In the community management. How do you say you differentiate and handle each within the games community?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question. It's a good question. I think we all acknowledge. I mean, crypto is a volatile space. I mean, the world at this point is a volatile space. And every time you pop on, Discord, you're dealing with work drama, family drama, personal drama. I mean, we're all dealing with a lot. So, like, we do have occasions where people get on Discord and Gen Chat and just kind of blast off.
Hmm.
And I think all of us would do well to kind of, it's like, hey, want to give this person some space, want to treat them as a human, want to acknowledge that this is what we've gone through is really difficult. And also realize it's like it's to me it's not about I don't want to paint a scenario of it's like a I even saw something when I was before I came on where it's like you're either sort of a wag me boy
Hmm.
or it's like you sort of hate everything and you're really critical. I don't think those are the two options.
Hmm.
I think it's about either being constructive, and sometimes that means like celebrating things. Sometimes that means like cheering people on and just being enjoyable to be around and having a good time. And sometimes being constructive means highlighting things that you're frustrated about, highlighting things that you want to be better, but doing it in a way that builds and that adds value versus being destructive, being toxic, sort of this vicious cycle of just like unending negativity. I started, one thing I did start to put in Gen Chat a few times is the, beating a dead horse gif, just because again it's just this unending, like it's just unending negativity,
Hmm.
where I would actually say I think that we've the community actually has created some panic scenarios for people, and it's just like this is not healthy, right?
Yep.
So again, I obviously have to keep my own self in check, but I really want to see us move forward in more of a constructive way, because again, go back to that point, the community is our greatest asset.
Yeah. Agreed. You talked about panicking, right? I would relate that to wool for sure. How would you talk about that? I mean, I know we spoke about it in Gen Chat before about how the toxicity can lead to the dumping of assets, but primarily wool, which is most important. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, it's probably more art than science. I know in general, overall all statement, panic, uncertainty,
Hmm.
fear, it's not good for markets, right? It's not good for anybody, but it's not good for markets. And again, certainly there's a number of factors in why wool price is where it is. And probably some that are more technical and complicated than I could explain or understand. But I really do think that the community, like I'm big on wool and I'm big on our community. And actually I think if you ask the question, what role does the community play in the function and utility and value of wool? I think the community is our best onboarding tool.
Sure.
So for somebody, we'll talk about the panic in a second, but in the same way that, I mean, anybody that comes into the game, they might talk about the art, they might talk about the tweets, they might talk about some aspect of the gameplay. They 100% will talk about the community. You've seen those things where it's like those surprises where somebody comes in and it's like, you guys are still here. Like there's actually people still engaging and talking. And it's like, to me, that gives wool, if you will, as a token, like believability and like validity. That's like, if you've been here for 2 years, you can expect that we're going to be here for longer.
Hmm.
There's actually a technology law, that states, hey, if you've been around, if a technology makes it 10 years, you can bet it'll be around for 10 more. And I think in sort of a truncated way, that's what some of these Web3 communities and products are like. So the community gives confidence to wool, but it can also create panic, right? Um, and again, we can all be emotional, sometimes irrational people. And again, there's more going on with wool than the community. I just do think it's important to say, as a community, we really ought to not be inducing panic and just extreme negativity. It's really not good for what we're trying to do.
Hmm. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the point of people coming into the Discord too. And I love the quote about how people will forget what you say, but they will not forget how you made them feel. Right.
Hmm.
So they can feel chaos right when they come in. Right. So even though even though they're not there physically, the energy is there. And
Right.
that's very powerful for sure. You talked a little bit about risk, right? And how you were looking more into that and excited about it. Are there elements that you'd look to add into the game at its current state?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, again, I think risk is a core reason why a lot of the OGs came and a lot of the OGs have stuck around. I first of all, I will say, I have ideas. I think a lot of the community has ideas. I also know the team has ideas. So, I think we're in really good hands. One thing I would really, really love to see, and I'm gonna go back to that GIF. It probably is my favorite in the series. I go back to the GIF of the Pokemon, the Catan, and the Squid Game. So when I saw that, I think I mentioned this last time we were talking. I actually went and watched Squid Game for the first time because I'd
Yeah.
never seen it.
Yeah.
So the thing that really captivated me at the end, and it's spoiler alert if you've never seen it, at the very end when they finally get into the front man's office or whatever, and they see the seasons
Yeah.
lined up on the bookshelf or whatever, and you sort of
Crazy.
realize, oh shoot, like this isn't a one-off. I would really, really like the idea of, I don't know exactly what form it is, but like a monthly or quarterly contest. Number one, I just think it creates a lot more like is synchronicity a word? Like synced up where we're all doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Which again, cave game, right? It's like we could all share in the same experience, which just adds to the excitement and energy. But also there's this like point at which the competition ends and all of the energy and excitement like that point creates. And it sort of ratchets up people's willingness to risk
Hmm.
because it's like, again, all of this stuff is concentrated. Versus sort of this, a valley game mindset where it's like every day I'm collecting and I'm doing my breeding, and it's like to me it just ratchets up the excitement.
Yeah.
And again, whether it's tournaments or whatever, I mean, I thought about it, the idea of like, um, even if Shep or team was like, hey, for the next quarter, for the next 3 months,
Hmm.
for every sheep a wolf steals, like we're gonna put an extra bounty on its head. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna pay out a bonus for every sheep that's taken. Immediate ratchet up in risk and wolf willingness to go and steal. All right, because there's incentivization, right? So
Yeah.
it's sort of like if you want more risk, you're probably going to have to create some incentivization around that. I'm thinking about like even with NFT collector Trade Alts, his handle in Discord.
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember this, but he went on this he went on this wolf buying spree where I was like, he's going to buy every wolf in the game. And then he would do this thing where about 20 minutes to 9 Eastern time or something like that, after the weather changed, he would sort of announce, like, hey guys,
Yeah.
hey everybody, I'm about to set them loose. And like, I would go and like run and grab my computer and just like make sure I didn't have some fat sheep sitting in a community.
Sure.
But like, one person,
Hide your kids, hide your
yeah,
wife.
one person created this like downstream effect of like, oh crap. Like
That's
I would
cool.
wake up in the morning like, did I get looted? Did I get raided?
Yeah.
It
Pay
just
attention. Yeah.
it doesn't take that much
Hmm.
to really create it's a pushing a snowball down a hill, man. And so I just, yeah, I would like either a monthly or a quarterly sort of a contest or this idea of a season. I
Yeah.
mean, let's crown a champion, right? Season one champion is, and it's like that is, I mean, dude, that is talking about playing for keeps, man. Like that. So I
Sure.
think that'd be a really fun idea. But again, more incentivization, more concentration where we're all doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like everybody, I want to see a cave game redo. And maybe you have to qualify for it through points. Maybe you have to pay, a ridiculous wool entry fee to kind of get in. But I just think a 30-day cave game every 6 months or 3 months would just be awesome. And
Sure.
again, that's not my idea. I just think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And think about what that does to the other assets in the game, right? You
Yep.
look at farmers, what that does to, okay, you have 24 hours to give that, you get that bonus of raiding barns or whatever it may be. Farmers are going to get jacked up, right? All of a sudden you see farmers triple in price and you're like, what the hell's going on, right? And that's what's so amazing about
Right.
this game. All it does is it takes one tweet and it stems from this community about how engaged we are, even in this bear market, even when our freaking backs are up against the wall. All it takes is one tweet. And there's
Right.
people who don't believe that, but I believe it with my full heart,
Yep.
100%. So,
Well, I miss the days. It was kind of, I mean, it was kind of corny. It was kind of, whatever, kind of manufactured. But even the days of like the Wolves Anonymous group,
awesome.
where like they would
I
just
love
go and
corny. That's freaking awesome.
level a community, and you're like, oh please, like we worked so hard to build that up.
Yep.
Like I miss stuff like that. One thing I'll comment on there, because this has been a controversial subject in Gen Chat, and I think for probably some of the Citadel members, I know there's a lot of sort of sparks flying and friction around like whether the wool burns on sort of these movements and activities and farmers, like whether that was good, whether we should have never
Sure.
had it,
Yep.
should have been voted on. And I don't want to get into the governance thing right away here, but like what I would say, I mentioned previously that in the economy, and you need velocity to keep it moving, and we had gotten to a few places where it was stuck.
Hmm.
The game was not facilitating animal mobility, and that was a huge issue. And so to me, I mean, again, I think we do need burns on some levels. I'm pro wool burns, but the burns, because there was nothing to really play for, the burns just sort of like shut a lot of activity down. And so to me, lowering the barrier on helping mobility, create mobility again, I mean, all it took was more activity. Now it gave wolves an incentive to attack. And then
Hmm.
once wolves started attacking, I mean, the farmers market almost doubled at like the Joe, the Diesel, and the Kid and Jane levels.
Yeah.
I mean, literally the farmers market almost doubled overnight in rental fees. Again, it's just because you need velocity.
Sure.
It's not just about one thing, because like you're saying, right? It's that flywheel effect that the
Yeah.
more it turns, the more downstream, sort of impact it creates.
Yeah. Definitely. I would agree. You mentioned a longer leash of patience, especially during the season of acquisition and transition. How do you reconcile this approach with the need for clarity, right, and communication from the team to the community? I know that there's a lot of community members that are fed up and they're frustrated with the transparency and communication. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear. I think that as we turn the page from, I mean, I love the lore and I love the sort of the teasing gifts that would give you these little, pieces at a time to sort of create the story.
Hmm.
I love that. And I think there are still ways to do that as things are coming. Um, but I think PV is doing this. I thought we would kind of get to the other side a little faster, where it's
Yeah.
like I think they need to tell the community what's coming, tell us when to expect it and what to expect, and then piece the details together through the animations, through the GIF, through the updates.
Hmm.
But I think again, I'm not asking for a 2-year roadmap. I don't think anybody's asking for that. But I think it's essential, like not helpful, essential that we get more like clear updates about what's coming, not just what happened.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, and so again, I'm not gonna go out and beat them over the head over it, but I do think, I mean, I would say I have expectations that we start getting more communication about what's coming. I don't think we should have to sort of be strung along like one breadcrumb at a time. I
Hmm.
think those days need to be put behind us. Still can tell the story as an unfolding way,
Hmm.
but yeah, I do think we need better, more clear, more future oriented communication. And
Sure.
again, I appreciate what PV has done, right? I'm not trying to be unreasonable, but yeah, I think it's a fair criticism. I really do.
Yeah. With the current sentiment in the community, how might that be impacting the strategic decision of the game? Particularly regarding wool and even the introduction of GG.
Okay, you're going there, huh? Well, I mean, again, I think that I think the team feels a lot of pressure, right? Now, pressure can be good, right? Pressure can produce diamonds. Pressure can make the best of us rise up and
Yep.
meet the challenge. But pressure, I mean, I don't know. Pressure can also, cause other things as well. So, you mentioned patience. I think again, I don't when I say patience, I'm not necessarily like meaning like, oh, I have low expectations and I everything will just be okay. That's not really what I mean. I just mean like I think we've had some people where it's like it's a Tuesday and they come in and make a point, and if it's not addressed by Thursday, it's like, oh, let me whip that out again, right? I got to make the
Yeah.
whole case all over again, and it's like,
Yeah.
what did you expect to change, right? Like what, sometimes I wonder, it's like if you've ever been in charge of anything, if you've ever started anything, I mean, 90 days is not a long period of time.
Nope.
In a business, you can probably only move and turn one thing in 90 days. So I
And do
really
it
think we
right. Yeah, do it right.
have
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
planning, execution, testing. I mean, feedback, whatever. I just think we lack some perspective
Mhm.
that we're just adding pressure in ways. Again, some of it's going to be there because we've all invested like real money, and I don't fault that. It is what it is. I just I'm trying. I think a few of us, a dozen of us, whatever. There's a group of us trying to bring perspective to the table. And when I say patience, I just mean PV says they're coming back with something. Take them at their word, right? PV
Yeah.
said wool's not going away. Don't so I some of this narrative about they're going to replace it, and it's like, well, there's no data on that. That's speculation, right? And that's you're amplifying the worst case possible, the worst case scenario.
Sure.
I mean, take them at their word until they give you a reason not to believe them.
Yeah. Yeah. True. What direction do you believe Wolf Game should take in the forthcoming year?
Well, I'll say this. I think that I'm going to go back to ideas. I think a lot of the ideas that are on the table are what I'll call like layer two and layer three ideas. What I
Mhm.
mean by that is those ideas only exist because of the layer one that we already have. And so the gameplay to me, I'll just say this. I have an energy and an optimism and an eagerness of all of the things that we can do as like layer two and layer three gameplay. And I don't mean moving off of Ethereum. That's not what I mean by that. I just mean like you build a foundation and now you can do greater and bigger things off of that foundation as sort of tier two, tier three.
Mhm.
I mean, I really think everything is ahead of us. I mean, in theory, if you have the economy, if you have the game foundation in the community, there's not a whole lot that we can't do, right? And again, I think GG is going to bring some liquidity, hopefully some platform improvements. I know some of that's still a little bit, ambiguous in my own head.
Mhm.
Um, but I really think there's an opportunity. I'll go back to those monthly, quarterly, seasons idea to really just create these these gameplay loops. One thing I love about that idea, I don't really want anyone coming into the game, and I think we felt this with Cave Game. It's like if you missed the first 3 days or 4 days of Cave Game, you missed it. Like starting a week late, you kind of had not much chance to catch up because all the paths had been taken.
Yeah, without the right tools. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you had a lot of learning to catch up on. One thing I love about this idea of like seasons, let's just say a new season started every quarter, that is the perfect onboarding opportunity because like a month in advance, 3 weeks in advance, like you could tell a friend, like, hey, like I made 100,000 wool in last season. The next season starts in December. Like, go ahead and buy a sheep, right? Go ahead and read the wool paper, the peak paper, the seasons paper.
Yeah.
Like, it's a perfect way to onboard a new player because it's like, hey, it's starting over again next season or whatever. So again, I think it's just such a great format that aligns everything we need: momentum, energy, communication, onboarding, and again, it puts us all doing the same thing. Um, anyway, I really do think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned governance. Can you talk a little bit about that? How you feel about wool as a governance token and where do you draw the line with that?
Well, Yeah, I know. I think that, some of the people that I would disagree with probably know that I disagree with them. We've talked about this pretty openly in Gen Chat. I mean, I respect a variety of opinions. My position on governance would be I really do think we need to be voting on more things. Um, I don't know why. I'll just say it this way. I really don't know why we sort of stopped that. And maybe that's because I'm going to speculate a little bit of my own. Maybe that's because, Shep knew he was going to have to either bring on a new team or new investors
Sure.
or have to, be acquired. And so there were a few things that he just pushed pause on.
Hmm.
Um, I will say this though, I know that the line that gets quoted that wool is the governance token. I take that to mean, first of all, that there's not another token that's the governance token. Like it's just clarity, right? Wool is the governance token. I don't think in any way that means that we will vote on everything. Like I don't understand that point of view necessarily. Um, One thing that I would like for so if you've ever been in any board context or leadership team context, the people that set the agenda are actually the ones that have the most influence, control, and power because they're the ones getting things in front. I would like to see wool governance be used as a way to put things in front of the team.
Hmm.
That the community, for instance, let's say that there was a list of 10 categories, or you could write in suggestions, right? Maybe it was a
Yep.
2 or 3 layered thing. You write in suggestions. Maybe they take all of the, question mark idea things in Gen Chat and say, hey, we sort of combine some of these, through wool voting or whatever, your governance vote, tell us which of these you care about most. And then the team is going to take these under consideration.
Hmm.
Like that's actually a governance function of wool because now the people with the most wool get to pick what's going in front of the team to be figured out.
Hmm.
Like I think that's a fantastic way for wool to be used as a governance token that we're really not using right now. Now, I think the team is hearing these ideas.
Hmm.
I wouldn't mind making that part of the wool governance utility.
Interesting. Yeah. Love the idea. Looking at Farmhands Council as a whole, what differentiates that from, say, wool governance, right? What do you think some of the responsibilities of the council should have and their roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think wool governance. Yeah, wool governance is it's a little more transactional. I think the farmhands council is going to be more relational activation. I mentioned about I see the FHC as really being a strategic bridge. I know some people have come out with like campaign promises on FHC stuff and like if I'm elected on day one, like I'm going to repeal and I'm going to change all this stuff. I really don't think that's the function of the Farmhands Council. I'm not giving my opinion. I just like I don't think that's what the stated goal is.
Hmm.
Um, I really think it's to be a go-between and to represent the interests of the team to the community, but also like sort of, if you will, like quash misunderstandings or like speak into the like where things are headed to
Hmm.
create confidence and just make sure that there's not gaps. Um, but also make sure that the team hears the community, right? I mean, I think it's great. It would be great to have some smaller players and some bigger players and some, different points of view to make sure that as the team goes and builds something, they can kind of see the full picture of where the community is coming from.
Hmm.
And again, I think that's the function of the Farmhands Council, but that's a lot more relational activation, whereas the governance vote is a little more transactional activation. They both are very important,
Yeah.
but that's how I would see them maybe being different.
Great answer. Running into round two, which is the rapid fire round. Okay. So to start,
I can't do any more role play, Dio. I'm role played out from
I don't
last
know,
time.
man. You were pretty damn good at it for sure last time we met. Share an unexpected fact about yourself for the voters.
Pass. I got to come back to it.
Okay. All right. How about what about the Farmhands Council? We're a sports team. What would be your position and why is it strategically important?
Center midfielder or point guard. I don't have to do all the scoring. Don't want to always be the one to put the ball in the net. Doesn't don't have to be the points per game leader. Don't have to be on the cover of the magazine. I want to facilitate. I see myself as an emotional leader,
Hmm.
somebody that brings stability and guidance and sort of like kind of calms people, calms the room. So yeah, I would be a point guard or a center midfielder in soccer or point guard in basketball.
Love that. Discuss a high pressure situation you've navigated and the takeaway.
Yeah. So actually, the reason why you asked me when I got into Wolf Game, the reason why I was an onlooker for 2 months before I bought in was about 3 years ago. Over a weekend, I was asked. I was working at a small agency, and I was asked to actually take over as CEO. And because of some of the situations that led to that, I knew that the company was in a very poor cash position. I knew that there was some rockiness and instability on the team coming out of COVID. I didn't really have a better option, and I took it. I took the opportunity. The thing that I learned the most there is I had to get out of my head because I it was it was very possible that it would fail and just wouldn't make it. Like we would run out of time.
Yeah.
The first thing you tried didn't work and you didn't have another shot. Like that was very possible. The thing that I learned was you've got to get over what I'll call, and Dio, this may be some of the coaching and stuff, or you're sort of this like life coach mentality and some of the
Sure.
things you talk about. This idea of like being ruled by outcome anxiety of like you're sort of like telling the story in your head of like, oh no, what if this doesn't work out?
Yeah.
What if I'm a failure? Like, and you like live in that story the whole time. And one thing I learned was it's like you just got to put the ball into play. Like every
Yeah.
day I'm actually not in control of if it works or not. What I'm in control of is like getting up every morning, both feet on the floor, like chin up and just go and do the work.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's one thing where it's like, I mean, to some degree, each of us as like community members, we're not very much in control of a lot of this. But every morning, if you will, put our feet on the floor in Discord and like show up and be the right kind of community member, right? Like again, that's within our control. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one thing that I learned through that experience.
Yeah. Great answer. Talk about criticism that helped you grow as a leader or an individual.
Yeah. I had a I had an opportunity to present a paper that I had written, a research paper, strategy paper. I got really high marks on it, and I presented it. And my boss, who asked me to present it, afterwards kind of pulled me aside and basically told me it was pretty terrible. And I was like, I thought you liked it. And he was like, well, I did. I liked, in writing, it was fantastic, but like your verbal presentation, like it didn't connect. Like it was bad. And one thing I had to realize was the way that my mind works, for some reason, it works in writing a lot better than it does like coming straight from my brain to my mouth. So I've had to work an awful lot. I actually started a podcast with Pity 2 years ago to be able to sort of think better on my feet. Like I had to work really, really hard at like quick fire questions like
Yeah.
this.
It's great.
It
Yeah.
does not come naturally for me. I'm a thinker. I'm not a talker
Hmm.
as much.
Hmm.
So again, that's one thing that feedback it stung a little bit, but it really like pushed me into getting better at that skill.
Sure. You didn't let it freeze you for sure. What legacy do you aim to create in Wolf Game?
Yeah, yeah. So um, I'm going to say two things. There was a one point I wanted to get to, and I'll make it here. I want people to see that conviction plus patience pays off. Um, I think we have an edge. I think you have an edge if you're willing to be more patient than the average person, which gets easier and easier by the day because I think people are just really impatient. So I'll say this: I am a massive Duke fan. I grew up in the area. I'm a huge Duke fan, but I'm also like a Duke student. Like a lot of the leadership, like Coach K is my leadership like hero.
Hmm.
And one of the things he would say to his teams, I'm going to take and use for Wolf Game, is he would look at his team and he'd be like, guys, be Duke. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, we are. But what he meant was embody, go out and do the things that are in our cultural identity, right? Like toughness, defense, togetherness, whatever those things
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this rallying cry. So I'm gonna issue a rallying cry to us as Wolf Game, and I'm gonna say be Wolf Game. And I mean three things by that: value wool, crave risk, and care about each other. I think those three things make the Wolf Game community distinct, more valuable, more resilient than any other community in Web3. I think it's clear, man. We just got to go like be Wolf Game, like be who we are, right?
Mm.
Value wool, crave risk, and care about each other, and we do that. And I just want to see I want to see us to double down and like even hold each other accountable. Um, support each other, but also it's like, man, let's stay on the path. We got so much good things ahead of us.
Yeah, dude. Very powerful, man. Why might you be a controversial choice for the council?
I'm not an all or nothing thinker. I see life with as gray, which color. I mean, I see life with a lot of nuance. Like I'm willing to hear both sides, and it's not a who's right and a who's wrong. It's about what's right. So I think sometimes people might not know what side I'm on, and it's just because I don't like shooting out to the extremes. You know what I mean? So um, maybe people would think that I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but it's more like yeah, I don't like taking sides. So
Hmm.
even in some of the discussions we've had, it's like, yeah, I don't, I'm looking for the right thing, the true thing. Um, and I mean, a downside of that is maybe you make both sides mad, right? I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know, but I have to
Hmm.
be true to who I am.
Sure. Good answer. If you had to design an in-game event that both celebrates the history of the community and sets the stage for its future, what would it look like?
In game meaning we did it on a phone or computer.
Yes. It could be, I mean, you could look at it not necessarily in the game, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be in the phone or computer, right? Because
Okay.
one of the games that we can make in Wolf Game, right, is because our community is so strong, we can make it externally outside the
Yeah.
game, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it would be awesome. One thing I would really love to do, we were talking about this a little bit in Gen Chat, is I would love to see us do, I mean, I'd love another national meetup. I would love to see us do some regional meetups, right? Like a Southeast, a Mid-Atlantic, whatever, right? A North or Midwest or,
Yeah.
or California, whatever. Um, I think you could do a lot of really cool things with that. I mean, other than that, I mean, I really do think, I think a cave game redo. I think that like having I mean, yeah, I think there's so much energy around something like that. Um, especially if there were some like wicked cool prizes. I mean, I'll say this. I found a relic in cave game, and it really like shot me up in the game in terms of a position because I think I sold it for like multiple 100,000 wool.
Hmm.
And so I'm over 1 million wool now in sort of total bag. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way I get there without finding that. And it was just like this exhilaration because I was playing with two sheep, right?
Cool.
So again, I think that would bring a lot more energy back to the community to have something we could all share in together.
Awesome. B. Godwin, what are your final thoughts? Anything that you want to say to voters of the community?
Yeah. I mean, I think that in our community, um, the way that I've thought about this before is you've got culture makers and you've got culture keepers. And culture makers are our gift slingers, right? Our joke makers. You know who they are. A few names came to your head as I said that. And we need those people, right? Every culture needs a culture, like culture makers, right? They're what makes the community fun to be around, whatever, a lively time. Um, but I would say we also need culture keepers. And I don't mean a bunch of like hall leader, like whistleblower people. That's not what I mean. I just mean people that keep us on the rail and remind us who we are and remind us why we're here. Now, I'm not the best culture maker. I mean, I love having a good time and I love our culture. But I think I'm more of a culture keeper where I really want to help, like I really want to help encourage us to stay on the path.
Yeah.
And so again, I think my specific energy around Farmhands Council is really to be a constructive influence for the good of wolf game, right? The good of wool and the good of our community.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Freaking very enlightening, dude. It's awesome to see that you jumped up and threw your hat in the ring for the Farmhands Council, man. It was refreshing to see your name come up and really excited that you reached out to me and we're making this happen.
Yep. Thanks
Dude,
for the opportunity, man. It's a great platform. You do a great job, and I'm privileged to be able to jump on.
yeah, I appreciate it. And voters, I ask that you take this very serious, right? We have some amazing candidates here to help shape the future of Wolf Game. There isn't any over glaring candidates. It's wild. It's I think we're in great hands either way,
I agree.
right? But it's super exciting and so great to put a face to the name. Many who have not met B. Godwin and really humanizes what we're doing. So thanks for tuning in for sure. And thanks for spending time with us today.
Ow!
Hey everyone, what is up? It is Digital Optimist here. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Den. Quick favor to ask, hit that subscribe button. When you hit that subscribe button, that's going to allow me to attract top tier guests to provide you with the most value possible. Give me a follow over on X at Digital Optimist.